What if you could eat to think like a genius? Meet Siu to unlock a mind that operates not just efficiently, but with the force of a lightning storm. We often celebrate Nikola Tesla for the world he imagined into existence. Alternating current, radio, wireless energy. But we rarely ask what fueled the man himself. What did he consume to sustain a brain that worked on a completely different plane of reality? His mind was a machine, one that required a very specific kind of fuel. The secrets to his diet are just as unconventional, just as fascinating, and just as meticulously planned as any of his inventions. His rituals were obsessive, his habits precise. Tesla believed the human body was an engine, and like any great engineer, he optimized its performance. Nikola Tesla was born at the stroke of midnight between July 9th and 10th, 1856, during a fierce electrical storm. Legend has it the midwife, unnerved by the lightning, declared it a bad omen, saying, "He will be a child of darkness." But Tesla's mother, Juka, supposedly replied, "No, he will be a child of light." This dramatic entry into the world took place in the small, isolated village of Smiljan, then part of the Austrian Empire, now modern-day Croatia. It was a place far from the bustling industrial centers that Tesla would one day revolutionize. A land of rolling hills, dense forests, and clear streams, where life was simple, agrarian, and deeply connected to the rhythms of nature. The world of young Nikola was one of pastoral simplicity. The food on the table was a direct product of the land around him. Meals were not extravagant affairs, but wholesome and sustaining, built around what the family could grow or what their community produced. From a very young age, it was clear that Nikola was not like other children. He was quiet, introspective, possessed a mind that operated in strange and wonderful ways. He was plagued by intense, vivid flashes of light that would often appear before his eyes, sometimes blotting out his view of real objects and replacing them with imagined scenes. These visions were so powerful and realistic that he struggled to distinguish between the tangible and the imaginary. Tesla learned to navigate this internal world, treating it not as a curse, but as a private laboratory for his burgeoning imagination. Tesla's unique mind was not born in a vacuum. It was nurtured by a family that valued intellectual rigor and creative freedom. His father, Milutin, was a gifted intellectual and a priest. He was known for his prodigious memory. He had a philosophical mind. He commanded several languages. He trained young Nikola with mental exercises, complex calculations, memory games, and other concentration tasks. His mother, Juka Mandic, was the wellspring of his inventive spirit. Though illiterate, she had a brilliant, practical mind. She possessed a remarkable memory. Juka invented tools and appliances around the home and farm. A mechanical egg beater improved weaving looms. When Nikola Tesla arrived in New York City in 1884, he stepped into a world that mirrored the boundless energy crackling within his own mind. The city was a chaotic symphony of electric lights, roaring, elevated trains, teeming crowds. A stark contrast to the quiet village of his youth. But for Tesla, this was not overwhelming. It was invigorating. He saw the city as a living laboratory, a dynamic system of energy waiting to be harnessed and perfected. This is where he would spend the majority of his adult life, not in a traditional home, but in a series of upscale hotels. Waldorf Astoria, the New Yorker. Tesla's days were famously, or perhaps infamously, long. He was a creature of the night, often working in his laboratory until the early hours of the morning, sometimes straight through until dawn. He claimed to require very little sleep, often surviving on as little as 2 hours a night, supplemented by occasional short naps. Amidst the rigid structure of his days and the long, sleepless nights, there was one activity that provided both physical exercise and mental stimulation: walking. Tesla was an avid walker, and his daily strolls through the streets of New York City were a non-negotiable part of his routine. Rain or shine, he would set out, often covering between 8 and 10 miles each day. These were not leisurely ambles. They were purposeful journeys, a time for him to process his thoughts, solve complex problems, and allow his mind to roam freely. The rhythmic act of walking seemed to synchronize with the rhymthm of his thinking, helping to organize the torrent of ideas that constantly flowed through his brain. These walks were also the stage for some of his most famous epiphanies. The story of his discovery of the rotating magnetic field, the principle behind alternating current, is a perfect example. While walking through a city park in Budapest with a friend, reciting poetry from Goethe's Faust, the solution suddenly appeared to him in a flash of insight. He stopped dead in his tracks and, using a stick, drew the diagram for the AC motor in the dirt. For Nikola Tesla, food was not a matter of pleasure, tradition, or social gathering. It was a scientific problem to be solved. He approached his diet with the same analytical mind he applied to electrical engineering. Viewing the human body as a delicate machine, its performance depended entirely on the quality of its fuel. Section 2. The core components: milk, honey, vegetables. At the heart of Tesla's diet were a few simple, powerful ingredients he ate consistently. Chief among them was milk. Historical accounts note his reliance on warm milk as primary nourishment in later years. He considered it a perfect food, easy to digest and nutrient-rich. Milk was a life-giving elixir, a gentle fuel for steady energy without heavy solids. He called it one of the most wonderful foods for maintaining vitality. Alongside milk, vegetables formed the backbone of his solid intake. He championed a predominantly vegetarian diet long before it was fashionable. He had vegetables specially prepared, usually boiled, to be easy to digest. Potatoes, cabbage, onions, turnips. He believed a plant-based diet was healthier, more sustainable, and more ethical. Another key element was honey. Honey was a potent, easily absorbable source of energy. He often consumed it with milk or on its own. Section 3. The foods he scorned. A calculated rejection. Just as important as the foods Tesla ate were the foods he deliberately and consistently avoided. At the top of his list of forbidden items was meat. While he consumed it sparingly in his younger years, he gradually eliminated it from his diet almost entirely. He had multiple reasons for this. On a philosophical level, he found the slaughter of animals to be barbarous. But his primary objections were practical and biological. He argued that meat was a difficult and inefficient food for the human body to process, requiring a tremendous amount of digestive energy that could be better used for thinking. He also believed that the uric acid produced by meat digestion was a toxin that accumulated in the body, leading to a host of ailments. Next on his list of rejected substances were stimulants of any kind. Tesla was famously critical of coffee, tea, and tobacco, viewing them as harmful poisons that provided a false and fleeting sense of energy. He believed they overstimulated the nervous system, leading to an inevitable crash and long-term depletion of one's vital reserves. He once remarked that he had a visceral abhorrence for them. Section 4. Rituals of consumption. Precision at the dinner table. Tesla's obsessive nature was never more apparent than during his meals. The act of eating was not casual. It was a highly structured ritual of order and precision. He needed to calculate the cubic contents of his food before one bite. He'd look at his plate. Piece of bread, portion of vegetables, bowl of soup. He'd perform a quick mental calculation of its volume. This likely satisfied his need to quantify the world, turning meals into mathematical data. His obsession with numbers extended to other dining rituals. John J. O'Neill noted he insisted on a stack of 18 napkins. He used them to meticulously polish his silverware and plates. This came from germophobia and a ritualistic preference for the number 18. These actions created a controlled, predictable environment. He demanded absolute punctuality for meals. At the Waldorf Astoria, his dinner was at 8:10 p.m. precisely. It was served in the main dining room, always at the same table. Only the head waiter could serve him. The rigidity minimized variables. Standardizing meals eliminated trivial decisions, conserving his mental energy. From a modern biological perspective, Nikola Tesla's unusual diet may have conferred several distinct advantages. For sustained mental work, his preference for vegetables, potatoes, honey meant his brain received a steady supply of glucose, its primary fuel source. Unlike the sharp spikes and crashes of refined sugars, The complex carbs from simple boiled vegetables gave a slow, stable energy release. This is critical for maintaining concentration over long periods. A brain on steady glucose is less prone to fogginess, irritability, fatigue. This steady-state energy was a key biological pillar for his marathon nights of work. His high intake of milk, especially later in life, provided hydration, electrolytes, protein, fats. He scorned solid foods, but milk was pre-digested and easily absorbed. That minimized digestive energy use, freeing resources for the brain. Milk contains tryptophan, an amino acid, a precursor to serotonin which helps regulate mood and can calm. Nikola Tesla's psychological landscape was defined by an extreme, almost superhuman level of discipline. It was deeply intertwined with his obsessive-compulsive tendencies. His rigid dietary rules and elaborate eating rituals were not just quirks, they were a fundamental part of his mental operating system. For a mind constantly flooded with powerful visions and overwhelming sensory input, these rituals provided an essential anchor of predictability and control. He would calculate the volume of his food, or he would use exactly 18 napkins. By doing this, he imposed a mathematical, logical order onto the physical world. This act of control likely provided immense psychological relief, calming the storm in his mind, allowing him to focus his cognitive resources on his inventions. This obsessive discipline was the forge in which his willpower was tempered. From his youth, he would deliberately deny himself treats to strengthen self-control. Tesla cultivated a mastery over his own impulses. This was not asceticism for its own sake. It was a training regimen for his mind. He believed to command the forces of the universe, he first had to command himself. The combination of Tesla's biology and psychology culminated in what was perhaps his greatest asset, profound mental clarity. His simple, clean diet disciplined lifestyle worked in concert to create a state of mind uncluttered by digestive sluggishness or the highs and lows of stimulants. This clarity was the canvas for visions of startling detail. He often described his ideas as arriving fully formed, like divine revelations. This phenomenon, while seemingly magical, was likely facilitated by a brain not burdened by metabolic noise. Physical cleanliness. Mental cleanliness allowed the subtle signals of his subconscious and creative mind to emerge with exceptional force and coherence. This clarity directly fed his ability to maintain an unwavering focus for inhuman lengths of time. Think of mental focus as a beam of light. For most people, that beam is scattered and diffused by 1,000 different concerns. Tesla's lifestyle was designed to act as a lens, concentrating all of his mental energy into a single, powerful, coherent beam. When he directed this beam at a problem, he could hold it there for hours or even days, chipping away at it until a solution was revealed. His diet, which provided stable energy, and his routines, which eliminated distractions, were the very mechanics of this focusing lens. He did not just have good concentration, he had engineered his entire life to produce it. This state of sustained, clear-headed focus is what allowed him to live so comfortably within his own imagination. Tesla's primary laboratory was his mind. In the final analysis, Nikola Tesla's life presents a portrait of a man who was not merely an inventor of machines, but the architect of himself. His genius was not a passive gift from the cosmos. It was an active, lifelong project of meticulous self-engineering. The diet he adopted, the rituals he practiced, the solitary life he led were not the eccentricities of a mad scientist. They were the calculated, interlocking components of a system designed for a single, overarching purpose: to create the optimal conditions for his extraordinary mind to function. He treated his body as the power plant for his brain. He was the obsessive, tireless engineer who monitored its every input and output, relentlessly striving for maximum efficiency and minimum waste. His philosophy, radical for its time, resonates with a peculiar clarity today. Tesla understood, on a profoundly intuitive level, that mental energy is not an infinite resource. It is a biological product directly influenced by the fuel we consume. The rest we obtain the discipline we practice. His rejection of meat-stimulants-heavy foods was a rejection of anything that might introduce static into his mental circuitry. His embrace of simple vegetables, milk, water was an embrace of clean, steady energy. He lived as though he knew what modern neuroscience is now confirming. Our cognitive performance is deeply tied to our metabolic health. The story of Tesla's diet is therefore not just a historical curiosity. It is a profound lesson in the connection between body and mind. It demonstrates that peak performance is not born from chaotic brilliance, but from disciplined intention. His obsessive rituals, the 18 napkins, the cubic calculations, were the outward manifestation of an inner commitment to order. In a world that constantly pulled at his sensitive mind, these routines were his anchor. They were the scaffolding that allowed him to build castles in the sky, visualize entire electrical systems, hold onto those visions with unwavering clarity until they could be brought into the physical world. He sacrificed the common comforts of life, the warmth of a family, the easy pleasure of a rich meal, the camaraderie of social gatherings, for a higher calling. It was a trade-off he made consciously, with the cool logic of an engineer weighing costs and benefits. Was it worth it? When we switch on a light, listen to the radio, use any of the countless technologies built upon his foundational work, we are living within the answer. Tesla's life was his greatest experiment, and its conclusion is written in the alternating current that powers our modern civilization. He didn't just invent the future, he meticulously crafted the man who could. So, what can we, living in the 21st century, learn from the strange and Spartan lifestyle of a 19th century genius? The lesson is not that we should all subsist on boiled potatoes, warm milk, or count our napkins before every meal. Rather, the takeaway is in the principle, not the prescription. Tesla's life is a powerful testament to intentional living. It challenges us to look at our own habits, diets, our routines, our distractions, and ask, are they serving our goals or hindering them? Discipline is not a punishment. It's a tool for liberation, freeing our mental resources for what truly matters. His approach is a timeless blueprint for optimizing performance. First, understand your machine. Tesla observed his body and mind like a scientist. Second, eliminate the inefficient. He cut drains on his energy, heavy foods, social obligations. Third, create a system. Rigid routines acted as automation, so his mind could focus on greater challenges. This is what modern top performers and biohackers strive for. Tesla did it a century ago. 5 maxims follow. 1. Treat your body like a power plant for your brain. 2. True energy comes from preservation, not stimulation. 3. Discipline is the scaffolding of creativity. 4. Reduce cognitive load by automating the non-essential. 5. Dare to live differently in service of a higher purpose. These aren't just phrases. They're operating principles of a man who bent nature to his will. We may not have Tesla's genius, but we can adopt his deliberate approach. Nikola Tesla remains an enigma, a man who saw the world in frequencies and vibrations, a solitary figure whose mind illuminated the globe. His story is a haunting, inspiring reminder that extraordinary achievement is often lonely and unconventional. He lived stripped to essentials, finding power in simplicity and strength in self-control. He was the child of light his mother predicted, and he fueled that light with focused, disciplined intention. He ate and lived to think like lightning.